question is a very good question. And in hadith science, we say that a hadith is sahih. Often we translate that as authentic. It really means very healthy. And it's talking about the chain of transmitters. It's not talking about the actual content of the words. But it means that these words of the hadith have been carefully transmitted to us by a chain of people that are very well known, have great integrity, and there's no doubt that this hadith is what the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then we have types of hadith that are called hasan, and these are hadith in which the chain of transmission is basically good, but there's something defective in it. For example, maybe everyone is named in it except for one person. And all the people named are really good, but then one of the people is not named. So that would be regarded to be generally hasan, because of the fact that these were trustworthy people. They're not going to put in somebody, who wasn't worthy of that trust, and he's not going to be able to put them in either. Okay? Then you have the da'if hadith. It means that the chain of transmission is weak, meaning that we do not have means to authenticate it for sure. So the hadith that is said to be weak, it can be 100% authentic. And in most cases they are. To say that the hadith is da'if only is to say that we cannot authenticate it. And hadith that are of weak transmission are hadith that are generally not used in law. In other words, we don't use them in halal and haram. Because in halal and haram we have to be certain that this was something that Allah commanded or prohibited or directed us to do, or directed us not to do, or permitted us to do, or that the Prophet ﷺ did that. So usually these restrictions, they are about law. That's very important. Because many people say, well, that's a da'if hadith. That doesn't mean that it's false. And one of the things is very important not to develop the habit of saying this is a da'if hadith as if it were false. Because these are words that are transmitted to us from the Prophet as a probable transmission of something he actually said. To say the hadith is weak never means that it's fabricated. And even when we use the word fabricated, mawdu', we're usually talking about the chain of transmitters. So you can see a hadith that is mawdu', which in content is the same hadith that is sahih. Because they're not talking about the content. They're saying that the people who transmitted this, they maybe got it out of Bukhari and Muslim or something else, but they are not qualified to transmit. They are fabricators. And they'll put a few good hadith in their collection to get you. Okay, but so always the transmitters of hadith, they're talking about the chain of transmitters. And Imam Al-Ghazali, he is a master of hadith. But he always wants to give you hadith that are directly pertinent to what he's talking about. And so often the hadith which is the most pertinent might be one that is not the best transmitted. And that's okay, because the meaning of it is sound, and also because of the fact he's not using this in law. He's not telling you how to make wudu by this. He is simply illustrating truths. And the hadith of the Ihya are very interesting, because Imam Al-Ghazali knows what is a sahih hadith. And he puts them there when he can. And he uses hasan hadith, he uses da'if hadith. But one of the things that Sheikh Habib Ahmed Mashhur, may Allah have mercy upon him, he was a great sheikh, And Sidi Abdul Hakim Winter was working on his translation of Imam Al-Ghazali, the book of Breaking the Two Desires, when we were together in Jeddah. And I won't say how long ago that was, but he was a young unmarried man. And so he came to Habib al-Haddad, actually, and he said that, what about the weak hadith that are in the Ihya? And one of the things that Habib said is that, first of all, he said that the great center of hadith transmission was Iran and Central Asia, the Persian-speaking world. And the Persians, and it's interesting that the Persians were the great warriors, the great scholars of Islam. And Persia was the Sunni bastion for 1,000 years. 1,000 years. Imam Al-Ghazali, Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, Al-Bukhari, Muslim, Al-Nasa'i, Tirmidhi, Ahmed ibn Hanbal, they're all Persians. They're also part Arab, but they come from there. And for some reason they loved hadith more than the Egyptians, more than the North Africans. And then you have Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan wipes out Muslim Central Asia and Iran into Iraq. And a lot of the books were lost. Many times we know that a hadith that Imam Al-Ghazali transmits is a good hadith, even authentic, because we find it in some unique book. Not in Bukhari, Muslim, but maybe in Ibn Lal, or books that are very unusual. And Habib said that you don't know how many books Imam Al-Ghazali had access to that were burned, because they were burned by the thousands and the thousands. Very good question.
And I think too, even in Hafid al-Iraqi's Tahqiq, who, he goes through and he provides commentary on the hadith that are used by Imam Al-Ghazali, he always says, "Lam ajid lahu sanad." I did not find a chain for it. And that's it. With the highest degree of respect and adab. Never like, oh, this is fabricated. This is, but some of the editors now don't have the same.
That's an extremely important point. We are in much greater need of a little bit of etiquette, adab, than we are of a lot of knowledge. And there is a whole etiquette in the way that we speak about hadith. And you will have people that will say that the Prophet didn't say that, so there's no hadith like that. And again, Al-Hafid al-Iraqi, who went through all of the hadith of the Ihya, he will, as our Sheikh Ubaid said, he will never say that this is not a hadith. He said, I didn't find it. And the thing is that you can find it. And often today, we do find these hadith. It's just that you have to get the right book. And, so that's an important thing. And again, like, you read all the hadith? You know all the hadith? Let's be humble. In other words, you don't know this. And these are polite ways to speak about our own shortcomings. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala.
I just think too, I remember, I think the ibara, the saying, the adage is, al-ilm bil-adam, laysa al-ilm bil-ma'doom. That the knowledge that you don't have something is not knowledge of what you don't have. And I think that one of the great confusions that has entered our time is people think that what they know is the extent of what can be known. And I heard a story about there was a sheikh and there was a faqih, and the faqih really disliked the sheikh. And so the faqih came to the sheikh and he asked him, he said, the sheikh came to the faqih and said, هل حط بكل شيء علما? Have you encompassed all things in terms of your knowledge? And the faqih said, طبعا لا, no. Well, the sheikh said, أنا من الذي لم تحط. I'm from those things you don't understand. You see? But this idea that I can understand it, or I understand everything, is a great confusion that has entered our time.